Joining us now is John Peters. He is running for a special primary election in Congress's Ohio's 12th district, I should say. So, John, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to have you. So now your incumbent there is a Republican, and he left his seat in January of 2018, right?
Correct.
And so talk to me about the special primary election. Fill me in on like the dates and how it works and what happens first, et cetera.
Well, right now we've got a situation. We got 7 Democrats that are running for this special election and general election primary. The general and special election primaries are on the exact same day, which is May 8th. And that's kind of where we're at. And we're going up against about 12 Republicans.
So I'm super confused by that. And I suspect some parts of the audience are as well. So what does it mean to have the special election and the primary election on the same day?
So basically what's going to happen is voters are going to go into the ballot boxes, and they're going to have a choice between 6 Democratic candidates that are in the special election primary, and then they're going to vote for their choice of 7 Democrats in the general election primary. So they're voting for 2 different, well, the same person or 2 different people, basically on the same day. And there's going to be a special election primary in August and then a general election primary in November. Basically what happened is they made it very confusing for people.
So I think I understand. I think you said one thing wrong there. In August, there's going to be a general election, which is a special election that's going to decide the congressperson for apparently a couple of months. And then in November, you're going to have another general election, the regular order one, the one that we all have in November. And so for the people who win, could it be that different people win the primaries for the special election and a different set win the primaries for the election that happens in November?
Yes. I mean, if I were to win the general election, that's exactly what would happen, because I'm only on the general election ballot. When I got in this in July 4th of 2017, I was one of only 3 candidates that got in. Now, once Tiberi resigned, multiple candidates jumped in, sensing an opportunity to basically hold a political seat. So very much so. We could have multiple people. We could have 2 different Democrats and 2 different Republicans running for 4 different seats.
Gee, I don't know why I would have ever been confused. But one last thing on the mechanics here, because it is really interesting. I've almost never seen anything like this in elections, and then we'll get to, of course, who you are and your policy priorities. So it's possible that someone could become the U.S. congressman from this district by winning a special election, but not win the primary for the general election, and hence not even on the ballot in November.
Correct.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
And by the way, that's the scenario you're rooting for, because you're not in the special election. So you want to win the primary for the general election so you could represent Democrats in November.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So now there are 7 Democrats, as you explained. Why you as opposed to the other 6?
I get this question, and to be honest with you, I'm not necessarily special. I'm just a regular person. I'm an intervention specialist, a teacher, and I jumped in because I'm legitimately concerned for the future of my kids and our children. So I think the biggest issue is regular people. We would go to Congress and we would basically vote on policies that would help regular everyday people. That's just what we would do. Well, the situation that we're in right now is we have politicians that are only worried about their next reelection cycle, what they're going to do in the next 2 years. And they're not addressing issues that working people are going to face in 10 to 20 years. Like the idea of what work is going to be in 10 to 20 years is going to be very different. Automation is moving on and it's taking over jobs. And technology and computers are taking over skills and jobs that people used to do. And our politicians, only worrying about getting reelected, aren't addressing those issues.
Yeah, so John, I'm going to give you the award for the most honest answer in Rebel headquarters history, so I appreciate that. That's an important award to win. We're based the whole network on honesty, so that's great. Now, I hear you, but there's probably other regular folks in this election too, right? So there's usually the way these elections work, and I don't know the 12th district of Ohio that well, but there's usually a Mr. Moneybags, and they're usually supported by the Democratic Party and the DCCC. And sometimes there's two Mr. and Mrs. Moneybags, and then the rest of them are regular folks. And then the DCCC usually works really hard to defeat you guys. So
it's as if you know exactly what's occurring in this exact election. I mean, it's coming from somebody who's never ran for political office before or has never done anything like this. I had no idea I would be battling the Democratic Party. If you said that when I entered this race that the Democratic Party would be attacking me, I'd have told you were nuts. I've had people that are inside these local party politics actually contacting my employer and making false accusations about me so I could lose my job. They're asking me to be terminated because of a false accusation. That's what's happening in this race when you speak truth to power. When you go after the fact that the Democratic Party is planting a politician into this race, somebody that has all the political things where they jump from one office to another. And the fact that I'm not afraid to point that out, they don't necessarily take too kindly to that.
So guys, I want people in the audience to understand we're in mid-revolution. So there are thousands upon thousands of people like John running all across the country, and I talk to them almost literally every day on Rebel headquarters. And the old way of doing things is you just get someone really rich or who knows a lot of rich people or who's worked in politics long enough to know enough rich people. And the Democrats say, no, only the rich can win. So we have to, but if that's the case, John, why not just let you run the race? And according to their theory, you have no chance anyway, so you would lose. Why bother attacking you?
Because I'll tell you why they bother attacking me is because I'm doing something completely different. If you go to johnpetersforthe12.com, you go to John Peters for the 12 Facebook page, I try and as somebody who wants to represent people, I try and speak as much as possible. I try and show people speaking as much as possible. So I don't go into these clubs and organizations and rooms and just post pictures of me going, like with a picture. I post what I'm saying on my Facebook page. I post my question and answer sessions, my speeches online for everybody to see. I even post commentary and funny videos and put it out there. Because in a representative democracy, the most important thing is that people speak, and we have to speak. And our politicians aren't speaking. They're trying to say as little as possible. And somebody who wants to say as little as possible to get elected and reelected isn't going to protect your right to speak.
Yeah, and that's Democratic Party 101. Don't say anything. In fact, there was a memo that some of the Democrats put out on Friday that if Trump fires Rosenstein, they said, whatever you do for the first 48 hours, don't say anything. Why? Why? It's maddening. It's
maddening to me as somebody who, like most regular everyday people, when somebody asks you a question, you answer it. And you don't spin, because people pick up on BS. They know it. And they're looking at these politicians and they're like, what are you talking about? When most of us are just like, answer the question.
So John, I want to ask you specifically about who you think might have been behind what you mentioned earlier. First though, I want to make sure everybody sees your links. You mentioned your website there and your Facebook page, but I want everybody to see the donation and the volunteer links as well. Always the links are in the description box on YouTube and in the comment section on Facebook. So make sure you check those out. Really easy to click if you want to help John Peters. So John, who do you think is behind the calling your employer and the dirty tricks that they're using against you?
Well, I know the guy's name, and I'm not going to blast him out, but if you go to my Facebook page, I think he took his post down afterwards, but my employers had already like talked to me. Like my boss came to me and said, "What's going on?" I said, "It's going to get worse because I'm not going to stop talking." And I'm not going to say that like there's some conspiracy from the Democratic Party to somehow take me down or to shut me up, but it sure does seem like it when you have multiple people that are from these little local party headquarters that are attacking you because you're simply saying and calling out the fact that their chosen planted Democratic Party candidate is a politician, which he has said, stood up in the middle of a debate and said, "I'm a politician." And he's got into this race after Tiberi resigned. And because I point out these things that he has said and done, they're attacking me for attacking a Democrat. Well, to me, a Democrat is one thing, a politician is another. If you want to be a Democratic politician, I'm sorry. That's not what I'm looking for. And most regular everyday people are not looking for people to stand up there and be a politician. We want people to be real.
So, John, last question for you. I see that you've got, the good number of progressive issues on your website that you're backing. But there's one on here that says public works program. So that's not always in people's priority list. So I was curious about that. Well, what would be your vision for a public works program?
I'm so glad that you asked that question because, like I said, work is changing. And kids don't want to sit behind, not every kid wants to go to college. Not every kid wants to sit behind a computer and type all day. Some kids just want their hands to get dirty working on something. And I don't think people care if a corporation is employing them or this country is employing them. But we need to make sure that our people have jobs that make enough money where they can achieve, they can support their kids' interests and goals. I would want a public works program to start building universal preschools, small localized preschools with big old playgrounds on the outside and inside, installing solar panels on every roof in this country and solving the problem. The world is waiting for us, the United States of America, to help, and we're not. Just doing those two things, and I mean, it could employ millions at good wages where they can support their kids.
And make a difference in the world. Makes sense. Now I see why you must be stopped. We can't have people making sense in Washington. All right, John Peters running in 12th District in Ohio. A spirited fight, as you can tell there. John, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Cenk.